Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Finally, for another transfer news special. My apologies that it's been a fair little while since my last stream. I had a lot going on this week with work and everything else. So I didn't get round to it. Then I wanted to stream yesterday. I didn't get round to it either. So here we are. Unfortunately, I'm also going to holiday on the weekend for 2 weeks. So we'll have to wait and see how I manage to put content out there in terms of maybe videos for the preseason games. But we are back to talk some transfer news, and there is a lot of it going on as well as Chelsea yesterday releasing the new kit for the new season without a sponsor. And first they say, reports said we can buy it without a sponsor. Then it turns out actually we can't. So I don't really know what's happening with that, but we will talk about it. We'll rank the kit. You will get our reaction to the kit. Mo will be joining us very soon as well. But yeah, there's a lot going on in terms of transfer stuff. But at the same time, there also isn't, right, Pies? Like there is a lot, but it's always like, well, in Caicedo terms, we're kind of just waiting for something to finally happen. And then all the other bits are like, maybe something, maybe not something. I mean, yeah, Pulisic is leaving and David Fofana is leaving on loan. But in terms of actually anything materializing of incomings, we're just waiting for Caicedo to happen, aren't we, really?
Yeah, it's definitely getting a little bit tiresome, but, I kind of expected this, in a way, it's better that we're not doing this whole like it's not really public, is it? It's not like like an Arsenal and Declan Rice where they was bidding and rejecting. It was constantly getting leaked to the media. In some senses, I just like it being nice and peaceful because although like it's frustrating that we're not finding out what's going on, at least we're not like I don't know. I kind of prefer it to be more silent in some ways and not in other ways. So I guess the good thing is we'll find out, it almost be like one big sort of drop in news whenever it happens or doesn't happen. So, I think not knowing the details behind the scenes, it's quite hard to kind of make a judgment. I've been pretty negative on it just because it's like, Brighton have been holding out for 100 million and, Chelsea and the structure, like you never know how high we're going to go. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit negative on it, but at the same time, I could definitely see it happening all of a sudden because they do have that pact with Caicedo, the owners and De Zerbi, and Caicedo, as we'll probably bring up, as said, it was actually last night. I think it's just got leaked all to the media today that he said a few words on Chelsea. So I think personally, when he gets back to training for Brighton, which will be very soon because they actually fly out to USA next week, just like us. I think that'll be sort of the time where he could just go like, "Well, what's happening? Where's the news?" That sort of thing. Like, I think he's going to have to push on his side a little bit as well to make this happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot going into it, isn't there? Like, there's been reports, obviously, for weeks and weeks that 80 million should probably do it. Now, a few reports have come out saying, well, because West Ham sold Rice for over 100 million, that's now what Brighton essentially value Caicedo at, and it's going to take around 100 million. And then the talk has kind of just been, well, if we end up paying 80 mil, it's going to be quite a lot of money up front. If we end up paying 100 mil, it's going to be favorable installments. So I guess the fee will look worse if it ends up going to the higher fee, but for the club in terms of on a yearly basis almost, it will be less money, if that makes sense. So it's a tough one. I mean, Fabrizio put this out earlier and you posted obviously saying negotiations between Chelsea and Brighton are still on the way, trying to reach full agreement soon for Caicedo. I mean, I said it all along, I didn't expect him to be done before we start preseason now this past week with Poch just training at Cobham. But I always said we need to get it done before we fly out to the US. At this point, we can't really sit here and say it will or it will not happen, really, can we? We'll just have to wait and see. I don't think, I mean, maybe someone like Fabrizio and a few others, maybe they can judge this a bit better, but even you, Pies, right? At the moment, you can't really tell whether it will be done in time for that or not. Pies, you're muted.
Sorry, my mic was on mute, I think. On Tuesday, today it seems very quiet, but in a couple of minutes it'll be Friday. So that's how like the weeks have been going with this. So I don't personally, I don't think it will be done before we fly. But I also think like if we're in the same like similar place, we're both going to America. Caicedo's going to want his future sorted. Like he's not just going to want to jump camps over, like travel over. I guess being in America is a good advantage for both of us, but
yeah,
like just get it sorted before all that stuff happens. Like why do we need to I don't know. It's just frustrating. Like, why do we need to go through that process? Like, Brighton just need to stop being difficult, basically, in my opinion. I think that's what's happening, honestly.
Yeah, could be the case. Absolutely, it's a tough one to judge, really, isn't it? Because I guess our first game is only against Wrexham, so if you miss us that one, it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, there's still two ways of looking at it. Before I bring you into it, Mo, just touching on those quotes that you were talking about, Pice. You said they probably were said last night, but came out today. Caicedo did speak on Chelsea, saying it's a big team. That's true, a very historic team. I can't say no because it's a very big, historic, beautiful team. The city as well is beautiful. It's got everything beautiful. He loves the word beautiful for sure. Mo, first of all, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it very much. Coming straight home from work. I started with Caicedo because it's kind of just up in the air. There's not really anything significant new coming out. Is Fabrizio constantly saying, yeah, we're still negotiating. Pice just said it before you joined. It's interesting how, at least I've gathered it as such, we're not, sometimes negotiations go in, okay, you put in a bid, then they say yes or they say no, or they throw in a counter offer. But what we have seem to have been doing is we just meet with them, whether that's online or in person, I don't know, I assume online, and then just talk to each other, all right, what do you want? And they're like, that's what we want. And they're like, no, that's what we're going to give you. Rather than going bid and, counter offer and bid and counter offer, it's just like, verbally talking things out, and then once you come to an agreement, then actually just bidding what has been verbally agreed to, which to me makes way more sense than bid counter offer. Bid, like, that's just, surely it's just much smarter this way, in my opinion. But what Pice touched on, like, again before you joined, it's very interesting how little is coming out in terms of to the media about the details of what's happening there, which obviously us fans, it makes it feel like, why is nothing happening? But I don't necessarily think we should see it that way. To me, it's, if anything, a bit of a positive that we don't know every detail about it. Because first of all, it keeps other clubs out of the loop and they can't just swoop in if they fancy it last second. But also just, keeps dignity more for us and for Brighton. How do you see that one? And first of all, I hope you're well, mate.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate it as always, man. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the channel and an absolute pleasure to share the space with both of you all, Ben. And I'm doing good. I'm actually quite excited about talking about Chelsea. I feel like whenever I come around to talking about Chelsea, I usually have a different perspective to how people kind of feel. But this is the one where I do actually quite pretty much align with you, Laurenz. I don't know. I didn't quite fully hear exactly how Max feels about things. But for me, I like the fact that we're not hearing too much about this deal. And if anything, the fact that we're hearing the player say this is probably one of the most positive things that I can take away from it. And it just shows that despite us being as bad as we were last year, the player understands the stature of our club, understands what sort of project that we have going. The fact that we're obviously a London club, we have so much history to ourselves. All of that, all those things that sometimes people don't place like a good value on, and they kind of go with the recency bias of like Chelsea finished 12th, so why would someone want to go to a mid-table team? Because Chelsea is not a mid-table team. He knows Chelsea is a competitive team that is taken very seriously and by everyone, but somehow last year we had the season that we did, and we are obviously going to address these things. He can see the investment that's going into the squad. He can see and a lot of what we're trying to do, and I like the fact that the player has spoken so positively about us here. So for me, if anything, that's the positive I'm taking away. As for the negotiation side, I think this is the reason why I like this. We also what the Enzo Fernandez deal did to us in January. And oh my God, that was freaking hard work to put up with. Even for someone who I like to think of myself as a calm-headed, level-headed person, that thing frustrated me, stressed me out. And I was just like, bro, just get it done. What do you mean someone has to fly in and lock these people in a room to try and negotiate the deal? Like, what are we actually doing out there? Whereas for this one, I feel more confident the fact that there's less news for the journalists to kind of grab on and then start putting all kinds of different stories out there that confuses the fan base. And let's be frankly honest, our fan base, not much needs to kind of needs to convince them of madness to go down and a meltdown to happen in our fan base. Why? Because the whole Colwell situation, oh my God, yeah, his body language looked off. I can't believe it. He doesn't respect the club. He hates this, or he wants to leave, blah, blah. We made a whole, like, people turn into body language experts all of a sudden on Twitter.com. It's crazy. But honestly, I feel positive. And the reason I feel positive is because as much as people want this deal to get done and as quickly as possible, I am more looking at things getting done correctly for us going forward. So from that perspective, as long as we get Caicedo, I'm happy. How and when we get him, I'm willing to be patient, because at the end of the day,
Well,
that's
if
what
we get him on
matters.
deadline day, yeah, it will be good, but I'll still be annoyed because then half the season bloody will be done.
I mean, I agree, because I would definitely like him to be there for preseason so we can start getting the team adjusted to each other, and it just gives that time of familiarity with each other. But sometimes you just can't control those things. We have to look at things for what they are, man. These selling clubs, they all understand now the power is in their hands, and the fact that he signed a new contract for us means the situation is more difficult for us. Hence why the deal taking longer for me does not shock me whatsoever. If anything, I'm surprised that we're able to still even sit down at a negotiation table when we're being so stubborn about Colwell, because I thought they were going to use that as a bullying
Well,
tactic.
they promised Colwell that not Colwell, Caicedo, that he will be allowed to go, right? And at the moment, at least officially, publicly, we are the only team in for it. Obviously, I know, and someone mentioned it in the chat as well. Adash did. The Pys, you mentioned it yesterday on the space with Goldberg and the others, that there is another team in there. Obviously, you told me about this a couple of days ago. Even you don't know exactly who it is and how seriously we need to take this. Obviously, there's been a few reports that Chelsea aren't worried about other teams. Just to maybe touch on it on this platform as well for a second. How do you see that one, this other team situation? Is that your main worry, or is your main worry that we don't get it done, if there is a worry at all?
Just for me?
Yes, because Adash is touching on you speaking in the space yesterday about potentially being another team.
I don't know. I think I'm a bit worried about it, but we've got time to do this. We've definitely got time, and we've had time to do this. So, I don't think that team will come in right now anyway. So I think we've got time to do this, and I mean, it's hard because I don't want to say we're so far in negotiations that another team can't just come in and pay the money. But again, I think a lot of it is on structure as well. I don't think it's majorly the fee. I think it's more like, Brighton will probably want a lot of money up front. I think Chelsea will be willing to pay a high fee. It's probably more around structure. I think that's what's probably taking the time, in my opinion, because they know they've told Caicedo he's allowed to leave, but they're still going to want good payment terms and all that. And we've just seen Arsenal and Declan Rice. Arsenal have just they were they agreed a fee with West Ham, and they were still talking about structure for like a week before he had his medical, like a good 7 or 8 days. So, this type of back and forths with clubs take a lot of time, and it's just draining, honestly, a little bit, because we all want to know what's happening. I don't like this negotiation as a person who puts out and tries to find out news, but it is probably the best method, because if things go public, other people, other clubs can pick up on it, and whereas if it's private behind the scenes and it all of a sudden happens in a couple of days or something, then no one else can come in. So
exactly.
I mean,
I want to stick with you anyway, because Vic has mentioned it here in the chat, and it hasn't been revealed by maybe the most reliable of sources, but there is obviously a bit of talk that Real Madrid may or may not be willing to sell Tchouaméni, apparently, or Valverde, to invest in Mbappe. And I guess that brings us on to, we can at least discuss, is it worth paying up to 100 million for Caicedo when you could get Tchouaméni for a little less? Should Tchouaméni potentially becoming available, should that change where our priority lies? Because both is, first of all, not going to happen. Is second of all, also a bit pointless, because we're playing a 4-2-3-1. We have Nkunku. Otherwise, what's the point in Nkunku if we're changed to a 4-3-3 again? So there's no point really in having Enzo, Tchouaméni, and Caicedo. So you're kind of like, if we want to change our mind, change your mind. But both is not going to make sense, because one of Enzo, Tchouaméni, or Caicedo will sit on the bench. And there's not much logic to that. That would be a big waste of money in my books. And I'll stick with you, Pys. First of all, is there anything to that, as far as you're aware, that Real Madrid might be willing to sell Tchouaméni? And if so, this is now asking your opinion. Do you think that should change our target and our priority? Or do you still think, Caicedo is the first the first name, and only if Caicedo fails should we look at other people? Or do you agree with Vic's message here who says 100 mil for Caicedo is too much? Give Madrid the 80-85 mil for Tchouaméni so they can buy Mbappe. How do you see that?
I don't think it's too much, honestly, because we paid £105 million for Enzo, who I love Enzo Fernandez, but his main attribute is passing, right? Caicedo can do so much. Like, he can play 6, he can play 8. He locked up Rashford at right back. And why I don't think it's too much right now is because the alternatives on the market, I tweeted this out on my personal account yesterday, I just don't think it's worth getting, a Lavia and a Thuram for a combined 80 million anyway. Like,
this I agree with, but if it's Tchouaméni, it's a different conversation.
I honestly, I don't know where this is coming from. This was in the space all of yesterday. We was talking, me, Alex Goldberg, and the Blue Dodger do a space every Friday and also Monday because sometimes it gets delayed. So we're doing it yesterday, and it's just Matisse as well. He was talking, he was just going through the midfield and he was talking about Tchouaméni. I'm like, bro, like, I don't know where's his fantasies coming from. I don't think Real Madrid would sell it if Chelsea, because Chelsea have a long-standing interest anyway. If he was actually even being touted around by his agent, I'm convinced Chelsea would go for him instead. I'm convinced. I don't see a way where he's on the market.
Okay, interesting. That's an interesting point. But still, let's pretend for a second he would be. Do you also then think we should go for him instead of Caicedo?
I mean, Tchouaméni is more of a powerhouse, I would guess.
It's a different type of player, but arguably more used to sitting, isn't he? At least
he is. Yeah, he would be, but then again, you got Caicedo who's then more versatile. So I don't know. To be honest, I love Tchouaméni. I really do. He's a fantastic player, but I think Caicedo is a fantastic player as well. So
for PR reasons, it would look better to sign a player from Real Madrid than it does to sign another one from Brighton. But imagine. But otherwise, honestly, for me, it's like I'm happy with either. Honestly, there would be a great appeal to Tchouaméni. I like him a lot as a player. He's a great player. At the same time, it's kind of like, okay, you went to Real Madrid, you kind of flopped a little bit if you were to be available. Otherwise, we can't say you flopped yet. But they had a lot of players missing last season, and obviously they lost Casemiro, and still going through their biggest games, Tchouaméni played very little of them. So I wouldn't be totally shocked if they were willing to let him go. And that was even though they played Camavinga at left back, and still Tchouaméni didn't start all the time. So that's another midfielder already playing out of position, and still he didn't get to start. So it's a bit strange, and obviously Kroos and Modric won't play forever, but they're still playing another year. And we're experiencing this very often at Chelsea. Players at a certain age are not willing to just sit around and wait for game time. Not forever anyway. So it's a tough one. Mo, how do you see that one? I know you're a big fan of Caicedo, and, like Pi says, who knows if Tchouaméni is actually available or not? And if he was, who would be our competition? Because obviously we're not in Europe, so that would make it more difficult to get him, even if he were available. But let's, for a second, just pretend he was. Do you think we then should change target and should go for him over Caicedo, or how do you see that one?
And I'm going to be straight up and say, no, we shouldn't change targets. And I'm going to be that spoiled fan also in the process and say, why not both? Because it's gonna sound well for a second, but go with me here for a second. Right. I say we sign Caicedo no matter what. That's personally how I feel about it. I really like the player. I think he's Premier League proven, and we already know what he's like. And it's not to say that I don't rate Tchouaméni. I actually rate him really highly. But since Real Madrid are worried about game time, and he's worried about game time, how about we put in a cheeky loan with an option to buy for 80 million? That way, the transfer doesn't have to happen now. We can test drive him. We can see what he's like in the Premier League. And if we feel like going for it, that 80 million option is there. If we don't feel like going for it, we don't have to activate it. I personally think I'm a big fan of having depth. I'm a big fan of having quality in our team. And generally, what worries me is when you sign Caicedo and Enzo, is if either one of them gets injured, what is the impact? And the impact I'd rather have is,
bro, you have to also convince these players to want to join. So, yeah. And if Tchouaméni or Caicedo know, well, Enzo is there, so he will play. And then it's Tchouaméni against Caicedo. We are not in Europe, so we have a lot less games. And they're like, okay, so whoever is not the first choice by Poch knows they will only play when someone's injured or there's going to be heavy rotation. None of these guys is going to be happy with that, realistically. I get what you're saying, and I would,
he's sat on the bench,
1,000,000% agree with it. But these people aren't stupid either. So they're like, well, I don't want to sit on the bench. So, and you're not even in Europe. So what am I doing there? Do you know what I mean? Like, if Chouameni wants to sit on the bench somewhere, he can stay at Madrid.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Like for me, I look at it for what it is, right? And I understand sometimes people are thinking about things like, hey, what if we go for this player instead? I still think Caicedo is a totally possible deal for us to get over the line. I also think he's our priority signing, and we've been screaming that as a club and as a fan base for this long. For us to just switch targets, unless the player or the club, Brighton Football Club, have said to us, we are not willing to negotiate with you, why do we need to change anything? I say we go after a man, we get our player, but also if we feel like it, hey, Real Madrid is looking to get more minutes for this player. They would rather he be doing this at a top club.
Yeah, but they're saying they need money to spend on Mbappe, though. I don't think they want to loan him out.
Okay, I mean, if that's the case, then hey, maybe we're not in a position to do that right now.
Yeah, okay. But see, in general, I completely agree with you. Like, don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's just don't know quite how realistic it is. I mean, Joe Barder says here, do we even trust Chouameni would work in the Premier League? At least Caicedo is Prem ready. Sure,
exactly.
Lukaku was Prem ready. You see how that went. So,
oh dear.
Yeah, I'm just saying. This whole Prem ready idea to me has been completely thrown aside. Like, look at what Haaland did in the Prem. Look at what all the players the City signed from all sorts of places do in the Prem. Well, when there's Premier League signings, they're all dreadful. Like, Grealish took a full year to do anything good. And last year, people were hyping him, but he was still the worst of City's attackers. Let's be honest. Now, he became more important compared to last year, but he was still not a £100 million player. These are the Prem-proven players. All Prem-proven means it's more expensive, not better. But, maybe that's just me. That's nothing against Caicedo by any means. I still want Caicedo, but nothing to do with him having played in the Prem. That's an irrelevant side fact to the player for me.
Question for you.
Go on.
And so, if we manage to convince Kovacic, who was at Real Madrid, to come to Chelsea on loan and then obviously end up being a permanent signing for us, do you think we can't convince Chouameni to do the same thing potentially? I know obviously circumstances-wise, one of the things you mentioned is about them wanting money in it.
A bit younger and therefore still touted higher, because obviously Kovacic had already been at Inter, had already been in Madrid for many years and never really managed to break through and become a regular starter. Chouameni has only been there for a season, hasn't he? So, or 2 seasons now, whatever it is. He's very young and touted more highly than I think Kovacic was. But I get your point. But obviously, we're talking very different fees here as well. You've got to be realistic. Kovacic cost us, 35 odd mil on the loan option. Chouameni would be between 80 and 100 mil. So different money, I guess. But ladies and gentlemen, the first thing, the main thing I want to do today is actually talk about, react to, and also rate, whatever word you want to use, Chelsea's new kit, because I feel like they have done a very good job in people talking about it, because some people love it, some people hate it, and even the people that are kind of somewhere in between have a lot to say about it. So that is very interesting. Chelsea have officially announced the new kit without a sponsor. 3, let me just show you, is still here, but they've moved it away from here to down here. But we've essentially had it confirmed that it's not going to be 3. We're going to be our sponsor next season. But we don't know who the sponsor is going to be. Now, I will show you a few more pictures. But yeah, it's a very interesting one. They're saying back to the 90s. I'm not really sure. I think they're supposed to imitate this kit. I don't see the similarity at all, other than that it's white under the arm. I think everything else looks completely different about it. So I don't really understand where this is coming from. But what do we think about the kit then, guys? I'll start with you, Mo. What do you reckon? Is it where do you sit? And I do want to put a poll out to the people as well, how they would rank the kit as well. Ladies and gentlemen, by the way, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button. But what do you make of it? What do you think about the kit, Mo?
Bro, it's been growing on me. I can't lie. I mean, the first initial leaks that we had of it, I wasn't so sure how it was going to look like. But now seeing it in person and having had the time, for me, it's grown on me. I like the fact that it has that gold, obviously that gold sort of look to it. Yeah. And obviously with reflection, it can look like a different type of color, unfortunately. And I think when they did a lot of this sort of advertising, and when some people have leaked it, unfortunately, because of the way it's been taken, it can look just completely different and not really pleasant to look at. Personally, when I've seen it in person, I dig it.
Have you seen it in person already?
Yeah. I've seen someone showed it to me in person, and it really looks nice. I personally like it, but that's one of those things where I'm like, it's just a preference thing, isn't it? Like I do think sometimes we find ways where we complain about something and just say it's absolutely the worst thing in the world. But I think if you look at our recent kits, it's almost always kind of started with this, rift between Chelsea fans of saying, I'm not feeling it. Nike are not doing a brilliant job. Who are these designers, etc. But then a bit more time is given and suddenly people's heads kind of turn and it's like they end up kind of liking the kits. And so personally, I like it. I feel more strongly about this kit than I did the previous kits. And so, yeah, man, I'm down. I can't wait to get one of them. I'll be honest. I'm more so the person that gets not the thermal ones. I forget what they're called. Those training type of stuff with the long sleeves that you can wear.
Yeah.
Though I like those more than I like the kits usually. So I tend to I lean more towards that. And I look forward to
banger as well this year. So
exactly. That's why I was like, hey, I generally think I like the alignment of the stuff that they've done and what they are going for. Plus, I'm a 90s kid, so they're speaking to my soul here. So what am I supposed to do in that situation? Do you get what I mean? Like, I'm not going to particularly hate it.
Yeah, exactly. If I asked you, how would you, as it is right now, obviously we will talk about the sponsor situation in a second, but as it is right now, without a sponsor, what rating out of 10 would you give the kit? Especially as you've seen it in person, unlike most others, I assume.
Okay. Right now, I'm going to say an 8 out of 10. This is without a sponsor. A sponsor could destroy this shirt for me. I'll be very honest in saying a sponsor can make or break a shirt. I'm praying to God it's a more minimalistic type of looking sponsor that we get, but you never know. At the end of the day, Chelsea needs to get paid. So whoever the sponsorship person is, please, for the love of God, just pay us good money. That's all I care about. But also at the same time, be nice to me, man. I like the kit. Don't destroy the kit for me.
Exactly. There you go. I will jump through a few more pictures as well as I ask you about it, Pys. Pys, you and me kind of sit on the same fence, isn't really the word, but in the same position, isn't it? Because for me, I really like the base of the kit. Like I like the blue, I like the pattern, I like the white kind of edge on the sleeve. I like the white bit at the back. I'll bring it up in a second. I like the white bit under the arm as well. For me personally, I know that's not quite you, Pys, I think. But the badge and the Nike tick. Now, Mo said he's seen it in person. So if he says it looks good, that makes me feel a bit more at ease. But this, especially, and that's the thing with the sponsor. The sponsor isn't going to have the same effect as the badge and the tick. So that's what I feel just can make it look super weird because without anything, it's just gold, but it's iridescent, right? So in some light, it will look a tad green. In some light, it will look a tad pink. It will some light, it maybe looks even a tad like some blue. But if the sponsor is just gold or just white, it's just going to be a bit strange when the badge being plastic as well. I don't like, why would you ever make a badge plastic? Like, we're paying £100 upwards for these football shirts nowadays, and you give me a plastic badge. Like, plastic badges should be reserved for the £10 kits that you buy at the fake markets. Do you know what I mean? Not for the real ones. It's such a shame to me because I absolutely love the base of it and how simple it is and the white details. Love it. But the badge to me is just so I'm not sure. So for me, as of right now, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. And the sponsor could either make it an 8 or a 9. But it could also drag it as low as like a 5, maybe lower. Genuinely, like the sponsor is going to be really important for this kit, just because the badge and the tick are so, special and out of the ordinary that it's going to make a huge impact difference how that looks compared to the sponsor. Pys, how do you see it? And first explain, and then I'll ask you for a rating as well.
Yeah, I like it, to be fair. I think it's quite simplistic. I like, simplistic kits, but I'm kind of just the same as you, to be fair. I don't really like the badge or the tick. I think it looks horrible, to be honest with you. I don't like how it's shiny. I'd rather just be a normal Chelsea badge, And also, like, on the sleeve,
if it's just a gold Chelsea badge, like on the jacket, who's wearing the jacket? Reese. Like, that is just a normal gold badge. If it was just like that, amazing.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that either, to be fair.
You're not? Okay, fair dues. Well, I would.
The only other bit I don't like is on the sleeve where it's got like 2 different striped colours or something. what is
That
it,
bit,
gold and black.
I
I
think
don't like that.
gold and black. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
I'll
rather
do,
that
but fair.
just be a full white. But other than that, it's better than previous kits. We've had some horrible kits,
Yeah.
to be
To
fair.
be fair, I really liked last season's kit. I'll be honest. I know not everyone did, but I actually did. So it's a weird one. But what rating would you give it out of 10 as of right now, Pies?
I'd give it a 7. Yeah, I'd give it a 7. I think it's clean, but certain elements ruin it. I like the collar as well. I know some people are throwing around like different types of collars and stuff, but yeah, I like it. I'd be interested to see what sponsor we get, obviously, because imagine that had huge stake.com on it. It would just look weird, wouldn't it? So
Mate, it would look dreadful if it had stake.
I know some people were
especially in
talking
the
about.
size that it's on the Everton kit.
Yeah, I know some people were talking about obviously the Nintendo rumors, but even they would have like some sort of ready boxed logo on it, so it would look really weird.
It's not going to be Nintendo, let's be honest now.
No, it won't be. But even when I saw that, I was like, "Why is everyone gassing this? It doesn't look good." So
yeah. Like the leaks that like that's why I was always a bit hesitant to really speak much about it, because the leaks I saw, to me it looked awful. But now on these pictures it looks good. I just question, like, the main photo that we used is this of Chile, and the badge looks green. Like, that to me is just a bit questionable. But obviously we'll have to wait and see. Again, Mo saw it in person. Mo, if you saw it in person, how did the badge, like that iridescency of it, how did that, like, did the sunlight affect it? Did you see it indoors? Like, how did it go? Because
I saw it.
go on.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go on.
I saw it indoors. So
Okay.
when I saw it, I also saw it in a studio type of lit environment. And it
how
was
did
like,
it look in person then? Like, what color was it?
I saw more gold than I saw the other colors. Hence why
Okay.
I liked it. And I was like, not expecting that. I was expecting the opposite, where it would just become a bit too shiny. And I'm like, and I'm seeing too many different colors. I don't like this. But that's where I felt like, oh, okay, now that kind of impacts what I saw with the adverts as well, because there's the shoot that they've done for the reveal here. For me, the type of lighting and everything that they've gone with makes it look like not as gold as you want it to look like. Whereas in other situations where the lighting is different, I seem to like it more. So in person, I liked it more than I thought I would. I don't know how I went into it with a pessimistic view that I was not going to like it. Let me put it that way. Hence why when I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm surprised. I actually like this. But then I was like, it's also got no sponsor. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, that's probably going to be the thing for me. I'm like, once they put a sponsor on it, that will definitely let me know how much I do or don't like it. And the last season's kit, I never got. The season before that, I did get, but it was one of those, like I was explaining to you, where it grew on me eventually. And I felt like with this one, it's the same type of story. The only difference
was the season before the one that I find so ugly with the half checkboard
the check pat. Yeah.
No, I hate that one.
Bro, I generally hated it. And then all of a sudden during the season, the more I saw people with it, the more I watched us, the more I was just like, oh, I do actually like it. But I'm not gonna lie, I preferred the third kit.
The third kit last season was also a banger. That kind of beige color with the orange. That was a banger as well. Absolutely. I will bring up a different tweet in a second as well. But yeah, I mean, Mo saying that it looks a bit more gold in person. I think it will also make a big difference daytime games and nighttime games. I assume the floodlight lighting will look very different compared to, well, sunlight, or also if it's an overcast day. So I guess that's also an interesting bit, that it doesn't always look the same, because depending on light, it almost looks different. I guess that's an interesting bit if you want to look at it that way as well. Let me bring up something, because at Chelsea, we're finally changing how things looking around the ground. Interestingly, are they going to change it again once we have a sponsor? That seems like a lot of unnecessary work, doesn't it? But there it looks really nice.
I like that.
There it looks really good.
Yeah.
If it looks proper gold, I'm a fan. But also, like, Remy, sorry if I butchered your name, bro, said, I always hated the heat press logo on kits. I agreed completely. Like the 2012-13 kit, when we had the gold kit, that kit also had a plastic badge. And I was like, I like this kit, but the plastic badge just took it down by 2 levels for me, because why? Again, I just associate a plastic badge with a fake kit. So when a real kit that costs good money nowadays, like, let's not forget, football shirts are expensive. And then to have a fake badge in it, I don't vibe with that. But at the same time, hey, it is what it is. And this outside the ground looks pretty good, I would say. One last thing I want to touch on about this home kit is the retail launch. Fans can purchase this season's new classic look on early access, so only early access even, from August 16th via the Mega Store at Stamford Bridge, our official online store, and Nike.com. The kit will be available via the wider marketplace from August 23rd. Fans should be aware that the 23-24 home kit that features on pitch may subsequently feature a front of shirts partner. The club will communicate any changes to the kit in due course. Now, let's just focus on this. Early access, but even early access, the release date, essentially, of the kit is 16th of August. That is 3 days after we play our first league game. Like, what the fuck? Like, sorry if I have to be so extreme about it. What the fuck? How can you sell it after the league starts? Like, I'm not saying you have to sell it now, but you have to sell it before the season starts. Now, obviously, there is a chance that if they get the sponsor sorted in the next couple of weeks, that they will just, pull that release date a little bit earlier and maybe put it on sale maybe on the first match day or whatever, so people can go buy it as they go to the first game. But that is a little bit ridiculous. And to me, also a little bit embarrassing. And I also don't really understand the point. Like, people would love to buy the sponsorless shirt, I think, because it's going to have collector's value like crazy, because not that many people will have it. It's not a common thing to have sponsorless shirts. Just think of that classic kit we had for that one FA Cup game a few years ago, but that sold out in like an instant, basically, because it didn't have a sponsor. Well, it did have the Yokohama sponsor in it, but it was all in blue, so you couldn't really see it. But sponsorless kits sell well. So even from that perspective, unless a potential new sponsor is like, well, we don't really want you to sell it without a sponsor on it, because then less people will buy it without a sponsor on it. I get maybe that, but we don't seem to be close to any deal with anybody yet. So why should anybody be dictating whether we can sell it or not? I just don't understand. I'll go with you first, Pies. Obviously, in the grand scheme of things, who cares when you can buy it? But when you think about it, the fact that it's only on sale after the first league game, that is just silly to me. Like, and like what Rick says here, we will have a sponsor by then, so they probably won't sell it without a sponsor. And I understand that logic. But then just say it will be on sale once we have a sponsor. Don't say it will be after the first game. Like, that to me is still crazy. Pies, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, no, I think the date just doesn't make sense. Like I just said, 3 days after we play Liverpool,
and it's like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I'm like, what?
And it's going to have sponsor by then. So as you said, you can't, like, I doubt they're just gonna put 2 lots of kits here you can buy it without the sponsor with. Like, it's just it's just crazy. This whole like sponsor thing, the shirt release has been a mess. It's honestly, I don't really know what to think of it, to be honest. I like the kit, but like how they say it's may subsequently. What do you mean may? Like, we are going to have a sponsor. Like, I don't understand this. It's quite ridiculous.
But also, like, if they were just so happy to release it without a sponsor before having to release, before we like had anything agreed, why didn't they just announce the kit a month ago then? Do you know what I mean? Like, that is another question I don't really understand. If you were clearly okay with announcing it without a kit, why not a month ago? Like, what was the point in not doing that? I genuinely don't understand. But Mo, your thoughts on it going on sale after the first game? That is strange, isn't it? Like, regardless of what you make of it, that is weird.
Very, very, very weird. But it just goes to show that
How
I
have
think
you seen it then? And obviously, I'm not asking you to throw anyone under the bus, but clearly someone had a hand on it. If you saw it already,
yeah, I got a friend that had the kit somehow. I don't know how he got it still.
To be fair, there's been a few people that have bought it before, so.
Yeah, I rate him though, because he's had it for a little while and he's still not released it on online social media whatsoever. Whereas other people have already kind of released it somewhere. And so when I got to see him again, then he was just like, "Oh yeah, do you want to see the new kit?" I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it. That's how I got to see it pretty much. But what surprised me was when they announced this date for the 16th of August, I looked at it and I thought, the way you've communicated this, it feels like a last-minute decision. I don't think they also wanted to do this. And I think it kind of pretty much confirms that Chelsea probably did have some sort of sponsor that they probably had kind of nailed down. Things changed behind the scenes. And before you know it, they were like, okay, it looks like we're going to have to go to a negotiation table again and find a different type of sponsor. And then suddenly now we're in a position where we're basically communicating with the fans and revealing a kit without a sponsor. It's not unheard of because Nottingham Forest, I believe, did the same thing last season, if I remember correctly, because they had no front shirt sponsorship. I just think it feels so last minute, and it's very unlike us as a club to be in this type of position. But I guess this is where Boehly and these guys just generally do need to fix a lot of the stuff and structure in this club so that we can actually be far more better.
This will never happen again, obviously. This is like a weird situation with the league position right now, with the last sponsorship finishing, new ownership being in charge and everything. There's a lot about. No, you're absolutely right. And also that
there's a lot they just wanted to fix, innit? I just feel like that, like Boehly and these guys, they just wanted to rush and fix all of Chelsea all at once. And I just think maybe somebody should have told them, hey, let's slow down a little bit. Let's walk before we can kind of run. Let's make sure we do the right stuff. And I do feel like what's basically happened is they just didn't anticipate certain things going against them, from finishing 12th to suddenly maybe we don't know if this is confirmed or not, but even the Premier League potentially rejecting a sponsorship.
Yeah, that
things that you don't hear of.
Because Clutch says here Steak was going to be the sponsor, but even Steak was, in my opinion, a last-minute thing. That was like after the whole Paramount thing happened. They were like, okay, now we need to figure something else out. Then they had Steak come in, and then the fans and the media had a problem with that, and then they had to change it again. What I'm surprised about, and I'm not asking you if you know anything about it, Pais. I mean, if you do, let us know. But just your opinion. I'm surprised that we're not seeking legal action against the Premier League for stopping a sponsorship, if I'm being perfectly honest, because I guess maybe they have these rights somehow, but Paramount Plus sponsor all sorts of shirts in the Champions League, in other leagues that have other broadcasters, and it's no problem there. It's just the Premier League that thinks, you can't do that. Everybody else can, which is a bit odd. I really don't know about that one. I personally think we should be looking for legal action, because to me, I mean, I don't know, and I'm sure Chelsea have talked to their lawyers, but I would at least ask a lawyer, like, if the Prem can actually do this, because this to me seems incredibly dodgy business. I don't know if you see it that way as well. But Jeff Knightley, you say rules are rules, but this rule has never been applied to anybody before, ever. Like, what? Like, whose rule is this? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what? I don't know. It's just strange to me. But Pais, what is your thoughts on this whole Paramount idea? And should we look for legal action? I don't know, but it's just I still can't believe that they actually stopped us from having a sponsor. It's crazy.
I mean, it was said that obviously some like Chelsea officials were like shocked about it and like disappointed, but to be honest, I don't think it's worth getting in any sort of legal battle with the Premier League. I think we should just leave it and just move on. Should have done all the necessary.
It would be a good idea, because if we win, all the other clubs will love us, because then all the other clubs can get sponsors like this too.
I suppose, yeah. But I don't know. I personally don't think we should. I think it's better to just.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I just
even like a little bit.
I don't know. It just seems a bit harsh. Like, come on, man. Why? Like, was it? Because so I'm not sure if you know the details of it, Pais, but so they're saying because they're competition to some brands that show the Premier League, right? But are they talking Amazon, or what exactly are they talking about? Like, who are they exactly be competition to Paramount Plus? Like, Paramount Plus show movies and TV shows, right? That's their main thing, isn't it?
I guess they're just a competitor to anyone that shows Premier League games in the UK, but also in other countries. But even then, it doesn't
Paramount
quite
don't
add
show
up.
Premier League games, do they?
No, but just they're in the same. They're in the same industry in terms of streaming. So they can actually buy. They
Premier
can
League
buy.
clubs that have Sky Bet sponsors. Like, how is that okay with BT then? Like, it literally says Sky.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It doesn't add up. Like, none of it adds up in terms of. I feel like it's just a rule that was, hey, like, it's making our other people who are paying us a lot of money uncomfortable, so we're not going to allow this type of sponsor, rather than an actual precedented. Like, it's not a rule that is written that we've always known. It feels like a new rule to me.
Yeah, it's just weird. And I mean, Paramount is ABC, sure, but it doesn't say ABC. I don't really care who it is. Like, the Premier is only on NBC. But who shows the Champions League then? Like, because like I say, multiple Champions League clubs, they have Paramount Plus a sponsor. That seems to be no problem. So like, it's just not. No, Oman Air is a partner, not the sponsor. I know Twitter tried to sell it to us like this, but it was never realistic.
Sorry.
But yeah, I guess it is what it is. But it's a shame because I think this kit would have looked really nice with Paramount as a sponsor, especially if it Paramount in gold could have looked real nice, personally. But we're not actually done with kit talk yet because as much as it hasn't been officially revealed yet, the new kit by good old Feroz, I need to bring him on the channel as well at some point. But good old Feroz has essentially taken a picture of the away kit, also without a sponsor for the time being. Pice, what about that one? Do you like that one? Do you like that one less? What do you think?
Yeah, I like this one so much more. To be honest with you, this is my type of kit. I like it. It's dark. I like the blue. I like the blue on it. Like how it's. I don't know. I like the pattern. Like it's almost like it's all like mirrored, isn't it? Kind of like I like the. Yeah, I can't really describe it, but I really like the collar as well. Like the blue and then the blacks. Yeah, it looks really nice. I like this one, but it is to me. This is not really an away kit. This is more of like a third kit. Like the away kit is supposed to be completely different to the home kit. Like this is still quite sort of. It's darker, but it's more like home kit-ish to me. I don't know.
I don't know. It reminds me of a lot of like. To me, it's more third kitty because we've had a lot of black third kits before, but I really like it as well. Maybe not quite as much as you, but the main thing is it has a normal badge, so I love it.
Yeah, and that's what's confusing, right? Why does that one have a normal badge and the other one has gold or whatever? Like
it's like that 12-13 kit. Only the home kit had that plastic gold badge. The other ones had normal ones too. Who knows? Mo, your thoughts on this one?
And I'll have to see this one in person. First impressions are not good. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
Really?
The feeling that comes to mind here is, Didier Drogba's quote, I don't recognize my club. I don't know how to tell you guys. I'm looking at this kit. I'm like, I see Inter Milan. I don't know what to tell you. I know the Chelsea badge is there, but I feel like we're stealing a whole color pattern and everything from Inter Milan. I'm like, I don't know if we're trying to welcome Romelu Lukaku to the club and say, hey, Inter Milan in London, come on, let's go. Or whatever the case. I don't know, man. I may have to see this one in person. At the moment, I don't feel strongly towards it at all.
Yeah, and if, like RD says, if they put this badge on their home kit, would have been a banger. Would have been a straight 10 for me. But no, I like this one as well. I would... I like it a little less like the base of it than the home shirt, but I like the badges more. So I would, for me, it's the same 7, but for different reasons, if that makes sense. But I like it as well. But it will depend on the sponsor in the end, what I think of it. But yeah, I quite like the pattern. I like the lines, and there's a geometrical a little bit, and then they meet, and then they spread. I like it. I quite like it. But fair dues. Everybody's opinion is obviously a little bit different. On the home shirt, the poll, seemingly, people that have voted, obviously place your vote, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done that yet on the home shirt rating, seem to quite like it, which is good. It is good. I do hate it when the whole fan base has to hate the shirt, because the shirt is the thing we see all the time. Like it's just frustrating when you have a bad shirt for a season. It's because I don't know, you just enjoy the whole thing less, I feel like. But yeah, each to their own, of course. And now we get to some actual. Shall we get to some actual more transfer news? Shall we?
Before you do, has the third kit been leaked? Because I haven't seen that one.
It has been leaked. It's supposed to be like some mint greeny.
Oh, interesting.
Mint green with like black shorts, I think. I wonder what short color this away kit will have. Whether it will have black shorts or whatever. What it will have. That'd be interesting. Because we haven't seen that yet. That will be interesting. But one thing. Go on.
I'll send you a couple of DMs of it.
All right, I'll bring them up in a second. What we should maybe touch on first, which a couple of days ago was only a rumor, and I was baffled by how this is happening. But David Datro Fofana has completed a season-long loan to Bundesliga side Union Berlin, who a few years ago only got promoted to the Bundesliga, and last season finished 4th and are now playing in the Champions League. So David Datro Fofana is going to be in the Champions League next year, while Enzo Fernandez is going to be scrapping League 2 sides in the Carabao Cup. God knows how that happened, but it has happened. For him, amazing. Great transfer, great loan move. If he does well, it's going to be brilliant. But yeah, I mean, Mo, thoughts? That's Fofana, good loan move for him, that's for sure.
A fantastic one. Honestly, I'm very, very, very happy for him. And I think he needed a loan like this. And I didn't expect it to be a club of that's in the Champions League. I don't know how else to put it, but I generally was like, I don't know what type of clubs are interested in him, but I'm hoping it's a club that can be competitive in Europe in some sort of way. And I was thinking Europa League even would be a fantastic shot at this point. So Champions League football for Datro Fofana and good minutes is good development for us, man. No matter what happens, Chelsea can't lose out on the situation. We signed him for cheap. He goes to a club that's playing the Champions League. He gets game time. His value goes up. That's the best way I can look at it. And I'm hoping he's able to hit the ground running and show a good showing of himself. I do. It's weird because I know that some people have kind of written him almost off. Like they like he can't get into our side and they don't really like what they have seen of him so far. And what I have seen of him in the past, even though it's very little, and I feel quite there's a bit of promise there. He just needs to put the stuff together and get a good run of game time and do in a better competitive league. And the Bundesliga hits those on the nail. So hey, man, I'm looking forward to it. I look forward to seeing what he does there. Good luck to him.
Yeah, there you go. Pys, your thoughts? Good low move, really. Like, again, I didn't expect such a good low move for him, but I'm happy he got it, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good low move. I think there was obviously some rumours about Strasbourg, but there was also a report that said he didn't really want to go there, which was interesting considering he did. He's not from France, of course, but I think he's played. Has he played there in the past? I'm not sure.
I don't think he's played there, but he speaks French.
Yeah, so maybe I did think he was going to go to the league, but I mean, the Bundesliga, it's maybe a league to get some confidence up, score a few goals. I think Union Berlin did very good last season as well. So
yeah,
it's an interesting one. Obviously, they're in the Champions League as well. So yeah, I think if he can, be the starting striker there, it'd be really good for him.
Yeah, there you go. I agree. I mean, in short, basically, Clutch says the Prem can do that. I was just going to type the response. The Prem can probably stop every sponsor if they want to, because they probably have the power to do that. But the dodgy thing is Manchester City, that all their sponsors are dodgy with Etihad, because they're literally owned by the same people that own the football club, which is just illegal, but no one does anything about it. And the same is for Newcastle. Their sponsor is just a sub-brand of their owners, which is also illegal. But the Prem do nothing about it. But as soon as we turn out with Paramount Plus, they stop it. And that's the part that's ridiculous, right? If they were in general quite strict on which sponsors are allowed and which are not, no problem. That's fair enough then. If, the same rules apply to everyone. But if we're doing some rules for some and some rules for others, that's why I don't play along, and that's why I don't like it. And that's why I'm not happy about it. And that's why I'm like, oh yeah, just why us? Do you know what I mean? Why us? I mean, it's typical, but why us, essentially? But yeah, Datro Fofana, all the best to you. I hope you do well. And I hope you surprise me, because I've been very... not critical is maybe not the right word, but I've just said many times that I just don't think he has the quality to play for us long term, personally. But maybe I will be proved wrong. We will have to wait and see. One of the bigger news stories, and we will get to Lukaku in a bit. I do want to start with the Vlahovic situation, because Alfredo Bedula and also, as far as I know, Di Marzio have talked about. Bedula said that we have inquired to Juventus about Dusan Vlahovic, the Serbian striker. Obviously, how old is he? 22, 23, whatever he is. And apparently Juventus won 65 to 70 million. First of all, Pys, I'll just let you go. And what exactly is the situation? Like, how heavily are we chasing this? How interested are we? And did that information that we got back from you, did that put us off? Or did that give us the information we thought we'd get anyway? Where do we stand as of now? Or can we also believe, Pedula, that this is actually what's happening?
I think where we stand is Pochettino wants to see Broja and Jackson in pre-season, and then I think we go from there. I think it's possible we sign Vlahovic this summer. I certainly do. He wants to leave Juventus. Juventus need money.
Oh, yeah, that photo is a Chiesa photo. I completely agree. That is not Vlahovic.
Yeah, the article was also about Chiesa, but there's been some reliable reporters. Pedula's good in Italy. Fabrizio's mentioned, how some of the directors like Vlahovic. So, I've also said, like, a few weeks ago on stream, I was like, if we're going to sign a striker this summer, I just think it will be Vlahovic, because he's kind of that happy medium. He's expensive, but he's not Osimhen expensive, and he's not, like Latour, I think, would be even more expensive.
Still too expensive in my books.
Yeah, no, he would probably be too expensive, but then again, I mean, the market's crazy, to be honest with you. Like, I don't. There's not really a load of options in the striker department, to be honest. So,
how much? Like a serious question: how much better than Tammy Abraham is Vlahovic?
Well, we don't. This thing is, though, we don't know how he's gonna adapt to us. Like, he could be.
No,
really
of course
good,
not. But we
bad.
know how Tammy Abraham is done in Serie A, and it's not too different to Vlahovic.
Yeah, but then again, you can't really judge players.
We can't bring Tammy back now. It is what it is. It's happened, but it just tells me, yeah. This is why you don't sell your academy products too soon before you actually let them develop into proper players, especially for strikers and centre backs. I firmly feel that because strikers and centre backs hit their prime and peak a little later than like a winger. I always felt it was too early to sell Tammy, but hey, cheers Tuchel for that one. But yeah, I mean, Mo, where do you sit on Vlahovic? I'm not sold at all. Like, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. And 60, 70 million, nah, man, it's just way too much. Like, way too much for someone that had as bad a season as Vlahovic did last year. Like, think about that. We are scraping 40 million for Lukaku. Scraping. I know Lukaku's older, but still scraping 40 million for Lukaku, who's had a better season last season than Vlahovic did. Like, I think this is, if we even consider this, to like anything above 50 million is way too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I hate to be that boring guy where sometimes I just agree all the time. I'd like to bring a different perspective if possible. And I think players can have bad seasons. I don't really write players off just based on one bad season. And I do think Juventus as a club have just been horribly run as a club, and it's funny. It's almost like a similar situation to Chelsea, where I feel like they've had a lot more controversy, but they've just also been very, 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 very poorly run as a club. And it's about time that they're in this position where pretty much they're now having to sell star players in order to actually avoid certain things. And it's unfortunate for them. I think him as a player, I don't have too much of a problem with. I wish we'd signed him directly from Fiorentina, however. And I feel like we would have gotten a better deal. We wouldn't be quoted this type.
Because I think, didn't Juve pay like 100 mil for him from Fiorentina? I
feel like the reason
Euros,
I believe they paid a higher price, but I don't know what the terms of their conditions are, etc. But
yeah.
What I mean by that is I just feel like we would have gotten a player that had a higher momentum, that would have come into the league with a higher mentality. Whereas right now, I just feel like he's being pushed out of Juventus and he's coming to Chelsea Football Club, who are going through the reshape that we are. And it's a situation where it's risk either way for us. So for a risk from our side, risk from his side, and you just don't know if it's going to necessarily work out for the best. Personally, I want to go with Broha and Jackson right now. That's how I feel. Unless it's somebody that is really established that I fully trust in. I feel like I want to go with the long-term vision that the club has kind of set out. So I'm more against this deal right now than I am for it. And even for 50 million, I still wouldn't purchase him right now.
Yeah, no, neither would I. Pys has just said Sky Sports say it's and the Guardian say that apparently they want £66 million. Still too much in my books, but hey, I mean, if it happens, I can't change anything about it anyway. But Jimmy says here,
that's what they paid to sign him.
Oh, that's what they
60
paid.
million.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, so they're trying to
bonuses though.
It's with it is with bonuses, add-ons up to 66.
I feel like I heard it was like 100 million euros at the time, but clearly I remember it wrong. If you just looked it up, but yeah, Jimmy says we rate Vlahovic based on Fiorentina. It's a Michu. Not quite sure I'd go as far as saying Michu, but yeah. As of right now, he certainly hasn't looked at Juve anything like he looked at Fiorentina. That's just as it is. What can you say about it?
He had two good seasons at Fiorentina, by the way. I want to make people aware. I understand the season that everyone talks about is the season that, just his last season at Fiorentina, but he had two good seasons at that club. And when he did, it's not about his numbers that I was looking at. I was just like, the guy has an eye for a goal and he shoots with such venom. And I like those types of players where they give keepers basically very little chance. He's then appeared at Juventus, and I'm like, I don't recognize this player. I don't know who this guy is. So it's a bit of a controversial one where I'm just like, I don't think he's bad, but I think comparing him to Michu is very harsh, man. I can't lie.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. To be fair, Jimmy has kind of cleared it up. Probably a bit harsh calling him me too, but yeah, fair play. Pies touched on this a minute ago. A report from Fabrizio from yesterday where he said Chelsea signing a new striker is not guaranteed because Pochettino wants to see Broja and Jackson's impact before going to put 60, 80 million pounds, euros, whatever, on a new striker. They want to make sure that they need it. Pies, you touched on it a second ago. What do you make of that? Are you happy about that? Are you unhappy about that? How do you see that?
I'm unhappy about it. I think we need to get a starting striker. I think, I mean, I was having a go at Alex Skarberg on the space last night because of this, because he had a developing take where he was saying, like, I'd rather just have these two and Nkunku up front and then get like a nice attacking mid like Shirky or someone. But for me personally, I don't, even if they do well in preseason, it's like Ross Barkley was like prime Zidane in preseason. Like, can we really make a call off this? Like, it's I don't know, man.
Preseason doesn't just mean the games that we see. Preseason is also training.
Yeah, but like, can you even judge? Like, can you judge off training either? Like, I mean, Ziyech is probably one of the best players in training. He's terrible when he plays for us. So, I don't know. For me personally, we need to spend big on at least one a goalkeeper or strike. We can't just spend big on a midfielder and then be like, oh, that's it. Like, no, like we've raised a lot of money as well. Like, what's the point making all these sales if you're not going to reinvest it? I don't understand.
Yeah, I do hear that. See, I would agree with you, right? If the market had anything available where I'm like, that's good, because I really like Osimhen, but I have my doubts over how well he'd work for us and in the Prem, but in particular for us rather than the Prem. But also, he's so expensive that it's always a risk getting a Serie A striker because you just don't know how they're going to translate to the Prem to me. And outside of Osimhen, we're not going to get Kane. Who is there? So I don't think the solution to, okay, we want to buy a big striker, which I agree with you, Pies, that we should in general do that. But if we say Osimhen is too expensive, let's pretend we did that. We can't get Kane. And then it's kind of like between Kolomuani and Vlahovic for both stupendous money. Maybe then it is better to not buy one because I don't think either of those is worth anywhere near the money. Just because they're big money signings doesn't mean they're that great of a signing. So then I'm like, then just save the money. And I don't know, obviously, I guess wait preseason out and then we'll see what they say. But if we waited and then went for Ivan Toney in like January, I think that would be, I would be more okay with that than signing Vlahovic, me personally. But I also understand why that would have its issues because Tony wouldn't have played for a long time and obviously blah, 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 PR reasons and whatever. But Mo, how do you see this? That before making a decision on whether we spend big on another striker, we want to look at Broja and Jackson's first before we make that decision. Do you like that? Do you agree with Pice that we just need to spend big on a striker? How do you see it?
And yeah, I don't think Pice is gonna like my answer here, but I feel like I agree more with Alex Goldberg. I feel like we've spent so much money over the years on this striker problem, and we've not managed to solve it. And I am now more about let's make calculated decisions in these types of situations where Broja and Nick Jackson seem to be like really calculated risks where we know what their profiles are and we know that if we give them the game time, they could actually be a hit for us. But if we don't try and we just throw money at the problem, I think it's just as risky. We don't know if that striker is then going to come into our team and also bang the way they need to because the prices that we're going to have to pay for these top strikers are really high. I also agree with some of the comments that are on here. I do think the striker market is nowhere near as good as it once was. A lot of the stuff that I'm seeing is more plays that you need to invest in time to and develop yourself. Hence why I don't mind this approach because I think it's the right approach for us not have to pay so much money again like we did for Lukaku, like we were willing to pay for Haaland, etc. And Morata. I mean, the list goes on. When it comes to Chelsea, we have thrown money at the striker problem. I like this new approach. I want to see where it leads us. It may work, it may not work. And that's where I understand what Pice is saying. And it's not, what he's saying is not crazy, guys. I do think he's making a good point. It doesn't guarantee us the goals or the solutions that we're looking for. But the other side has also shown us that it doesn't necessarily guarantee us what we're looking for either. And it's massive pressure and we're struggling to get rid of those players too. So from that perspective, I do think this balanced approach is nice. And I'd like to see how these two players do, and then we make a healthy decision from there, and we make it knowing what we've tried at least.
Yeah, there you go. And I think another thing that we should also remember, though, is deciding this doesn't necessarily mean we won't sign a striker, right? So, like, if Poch from preseason, from training, decides Broja and Jackson aren't quite enough, then we will go for one anyway. But another thing that you should remember, because Pi said, how can you judge in preseason? Barkley was great in preseason. The window is also open for the first 2 weeks of Premier League. So, like, we will not only see preseason, theoretically, we can make a late move for a striker also in August once the season has already started. Like, not ideal, but we can do that. So, like,
no serious club sells a striker in August, bro.
Well, we signed Lukaku.
That's not happening.
We signed Lukaku in August.
Yeah, well, the season hadn't started when we signed him, did it?
Yeah, it had. He didn't play the first 2 games, I think.
Yeah,
his
first game was against
away, wasn't it? And that was like the third or fourth game of the season.
I think it was the third. We played Spurs first. Was it Spurs first? Oh no, I'm getting confused. Who the hell did we play first?
I wouldn't want to go down that route again. That's bad planning for Poch. Really,
I
bad
agree,
planning.
But I don't think it's bad planning in a sense of when there's no perfect options available. I'd rather judge fully what we have. That's the problem with when you get a new manager.
We're going to anyway, though.
Well, obviously, Broja wasn't fit and Jackson wouldn't have been here. But if Poch was here in April, then he could have looked at the squad and then he wouldn't have needed preseason to make these judgments. But now that we have a new manager now, you will need to let him make his judgments before judging what else we need, I guess, Like, you need to give a manager that time and not just throw a player at him that he doesn't even know yet if he wants. So, yeah, but I do see both of your points, and my point is kind of similar to Mo's anyway. Jimmy with another super chat, appreciate it very much, mate. He says, I do get what Pice is saying. If in 2 years 75% of the young signings work, I'm confident that we'll all be relaxed about future young signings. That's true. But the problem is Vlahovic is such a weird one because he's young, really young, so not particularly experienced.
He's 23.
Yeah, exactly. But there's still kind of done a lot with, like, he spent 3 or 4 seasons at Fiorentina, had 2 really good ones there. Now it's been at Juve where he's kind of flopped a little bit. Again, I don't just want to say Juve were bad because Juve, without the points deduction, finished third, ahead of Inter and AC Milan. So I don't think we can just sit here, it was just Juve that's bad. It's okay to say Vlahovic was bad. Vlahovic didn't even start the last part of the season. It was Milik that started ahead of him. And Milik is awful. So if Milik is picked over him, now I know Pi says Allegri tack, but Milik is dreadful.
Yeah,
for anyone
I can't lie.
Behind
It's
Milik.
Allegri, man.
Horrendous, bro. They play like a 3-5-2 and it's disgusting. You can't.
So they're playing 2 strikers and still not picking Vlahovic. What does that tell you?
It tells you that Allegri
he's not suited.
Yeah, but
more progressive at Chelsea.
What do you mean he's not suited? Vlahovic screams Juve striker. All they do is park the bus and pump the ball.
No. But it's not suited to the style that they're trying to currently play. It doesn't actually play to the best traits of this player, and unfortunately, we're seeing him suffer. I personally, I'm a big believer.
It's not like Milik banged goals, and that's what's made it justifiable. Milik wasn't good either, and still he was picked over Vlahovic. It's not a good sign. Vlahovic also wasn't picked for Serbia at the World Cup. They picked Mitrovic over him. Also not a good sign to me. Like, why is no one picking him other than Fiorentina?
I mean, Mitrovic is the more experienced striker, so I would expect them to make that type of decision. They've played with Mitrovic for years.
But if Vlahovic is worth 70 mil, then,
No, but that's the thing, isn't it? Like, I necessarily wouldn't make a decision based on valuation. I'd make it based on what suits the team best. And in this scenario, I just think Vlahovic is someone that suffered. And I think at Chelsea, we are familiar with these types of issues. They are players that we've seen.
To Juve than we are to Fiorentina. I'm not saying we're similar to Juve, but we are closer to Juve than we are to Fiorentina.
No. What I'm trying to say is exactly that, bro. We've seen players succeed at other clubs. We signed them and they've suffered under us. So what I'm trying to make a point of is sometimes it's just not about the valuation or the quality of player. The other aspect that people kind of don't put a lot of value on is what system are you playing and how are you getting the best out of this player? And are you complementing him with players that also are doing what needs to be done to get the best out of that player? And if that's the answer is no, you might get short burst out of him, but in the long run, the play just doesn't suit your club and you've made the wrong signing. And that's the way I kind of look at it. I don't think Vlahovic is a shit striker. I think he may just not be suiting what Allegri and Juve are trying to do right now.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I hear that. I mean, yeah, everyone's opinion is going to be different. At the end of the day, none of our opinions matter. We'll just have to wait and see what the club do, really. But as we're talking about strikers, Inter Milan are reportedly preparing a new bid for Lukaku in the region of 30 million euros to 35 million euros. Yesterday, there was a report of they're, preparing a new bid and we want 40 million. Pys, before we get into him potentially going AWOL, we'll get into that in a second. But what is this bid situation right now? We want 40 million pounds. They apparently are making a new bid now with 30 to 35 million pounds. But realistically, at this point, we should just wait until Inter have the Onana money and only sell then, surely, right?
Yeah, I think that's what they're waiting for anyway to bid. To be honest with you, I'd just accept their next bid. We need this guy at the club, It's Matt Lord said earlier on today as well that he's like had.
Yeah, I'll bring that up in a second. Just stick to the bid first.
Yeah, it's just a joke, man. Honestly, like just get him out. Honestly, 5 million for this guy and make a difference. You just need to get him out, get him off the books, take your losses, forget we ever signed him, and move on. Like. Can't stand the guy, especially after he missed an open goal in the Champions League final. They're useless.
Yeah, he really is useless, isn't he? My God. I absolutely hate the guy. But, I mean, on the one hand, I'm like, if we can get 35, 40 million for him, that's a lot more than I thought we would get. So I'll take it. But that report that you were just talking about in terms of Matt Law, I need to actually find it. Where is it? Where is it? Not anywhere. Brilliant. This is that one. Yes, there it is. Maurizio Pochettino had said he expected to see Lukaku back in training on Wednesday or Thursday, but the goalposts have now moved. Chelsea have pushed back his return to July 17th, which is next Monday, as Lukaku had no intention of returning to training with Chelsea. Now, he was also supposed to, according to Nizar Kinsella, I think, along with Ampadu, Hudson-Odoi and a few others, supposed to train with a different group, which that part I like. But essentially, Lukaku was willing to go AWOL. We then gave him a different date so he doesn't have to go AWOL, essentially. And hopefully we will get this sale done beforehand. But yeah, Lukaku showing his face again. I mean, I really don't know what kind of cretin this man is. Like, honestly, I wonder what goes on in the man's brain, if he has one. I mean, the man speaks 17 languages, so he clearly has a brain. I don't know what's going on. It's maybe just filled with languages rather than any logic. But the way he acted, the way he's behaved, to then, like, you will get your move anyway. Have you not clocked that by now? But to then sit there and say, I'm not even coming back to training, you do realize we are paying you. Like, is he aware of that? How much money we're paying him? How much money he has both commercially, on pitch, and in every sense of the word cost us? For him to do, like, honestly, I would just want to chop his head off. Like, genuinely, like, how dare you? What disgraceful, dirty human being you are. Like, just, we're paying you 350 bags a week, and you are like, no, I'm not coming to training. Like, let the club sort it out, man. Stop being such a little bitch. Like, I hate him. Honestly, I hated him so much. I was so happy Man City won the Champions League because it meant Lukaku didn't. Like, I would rather Arsenal win a treble than Lukaku win a single other trophy in his life. I hate the man with every ounce of my body. I despise him. What a cretin he is. Just get rid of him. I don't care how much. Just get rid, Chelsea, please, for the love of God. I mean, well, obviously, most people won't take it to as an extreme as I just did, but how can you sit there and after all he's pulled off and say, I'm not coming to preseason? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, come on. Like, I'm not saying I want him in preseason, but you're fucking contractually obliged, man. You signed that contract.
I honestly, you took the words out of my mouth. I think you've kept it together better than I could. But personally, I am willing to make this guy rot in under 21s, all by himself, training, never gets a match, becomes unfair. Like, I'm willing to go the end of earth just to make him suffer. That's how bad the situation is. I back this guy in situations I know for a fact right now. I was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. We could probably resolve the situation because at the end of the day, you are our striker. You've made a mistake. We can resolve this. But ever since then, I have never seen someone take more and more actions to show exactly why he is not professional, exactly why he is lucky to even play football the way that he gets to. Because I've never seen someone just become so unprofessional, man. I am so shocked that we are right now in 2023 on freaking what's the date today? The 11th of July. I'm having to discuss Romelu Lukaku still being at my club. But we have to also look at this situation objectively with a wider perspective. What are we telling other players that play for our club that they can bully us like this? That's why I'm like I'm at the point now where I feel like we need to maybe make a stance if that's what it takes with this guy. I absolutely despise what he's done. He's made a joke of us and he's continuing to do so daily. Instead of acting like a professional and showing up where he's supposed to be until agreement can be made, he's making our life difficult and making Inter's life more easy in the negotiation table where they're playing games with us. They're giving us
like,
money that is not
it says
worth.
Here, we have pushed back his return date to July 17th. We shouldn't have done that. We should have fined him immediately as he doesn't turn up. Because at least save us some wages. We paid half of his wages at Inter. Do you know what I mean?
100%. I honestly, I also now hate Inter. I've never really had anything against Inter. Like it's not a club I don't like them too now. Like they piss me off, and it's not because the Romelu Lukaku situation. They're just a very tough club to deal with, and I've generally not enjoyed this experience whatsoever. And this guy makes it worse every single time that any sort of news comes out. It's never any positives. It's never, oh, let him be a professional. It's never, oh, let him find a solution with the clubs involved in order to get whatever he wants. Instead, it's let me make Chelsea Football Club and their fan base have a meltdown because I'm going to do whatever is possible to get what I want and forget everybody else. And this is the same guy we've paid a record fee for. I can't believe this is that guy, man. I feel like we need to... do you know what the annoying part is? The fact that he's the last striker we've done this for annoys me so freaking much, man. It annoys me every ounce of my body. I just can't wait for this guy to fail or whatever comes next for him as well. I genuinely can't wait. That a part of me didn't want them to win the Champions League, despite I didn't want Man City to win it. But I'm like, I also don't want Romelu Lukaku to win this. That's how bad the situation's got. That I'm going against Inter because of one player. And he's still that same guy. And honestly, there's not much I can say, man. I want this situation to be over the way I wanted Mason Mount's situation to be over. I just want us to cut our losses, never have to speak about him again.
Honestly, just get him gone. And like I say, the fact that we allowed him a week later, no, tell him, okay, if you don't turn up,
that's a massive mistake, man. I can't believe we allowed that. We actually moved the date for him. What are we telling other people that want to leave the club?
Yeah, exactly. Like Cole will take a look at that. We'll touch on him in a second. Anything else you want to add after mine and Mo's rants?
To be honest, no, I've passed running about this guy. I got on my anger on him a long time ago. To be honest with you, I expected this. I didn't think he was going to turn up to us. To be honest with you, I didn't think there was even a chance. So I'm not surprised that he's behaving this way. I mean, we all know he wants to get his own way. We all know he wants to do his own thing. It's all about him. Even when he was here, it was all about him. You saw those training videos. Let me show you how to score and all that. The guy's got one of the biggest egos in the world. So, I'm not surprised about this. But yeah, I do agree. We should have fined him. We should have said, right, well, you're not turning up. Your contract will be advised. You're being fined. But again, this sort of move from Chelsea just shows that we're handing the power over to him or continuing to let him have the power. So, yeah, I don't think it's great that we're doing this.
No, there you go. Another interesting person we are kind of linked to, but mainly it's players talking about it. Thiago Silva at the weekend at the F1. Now Enzo Fernandez saying I've sent text messages to Paulo Dybala telling him to come to Chelsea. I hope he comes and joins us. Let's see what happens. Now, people are probably aware clubs outside of Italy have a buyout clause or a release clause for Dybala for 12 million euros, I think it is. So very cheap. He's, I think 29 nowadays. Obviously injured quite often, but still a good player. I'll let you go first, Pys, in terms of, first of all, is there anything to it? But yeah, what would you make of all of this? Because obviously we've been talking about for a little bit, like, yeah, we have Nkunku, but who is the backup? Dybala can play on the right if necessary. Dybala can play as a 10. He kind of fits what we are missing as this backup attacker role really well. The question is he going to be happy to be a backup role? I don't know about that. And also what his wages are going to be, I don't know. But 12 million, when you could, like, to me, I'm not saying he's as good and as talented and whatever as Joao Felix, especially with pace and stuff, but kind of the elk, like, well, I'm like, okay, a bit can be that kind of Joao Felix type player where like, oh yeah, a little bit of, giving you that little bit of that spark and stuff. But instead of costing you 100 odd mil, he will cost you 12 mil. So that's kind of smart. I mean, why would he play backup? I don't know. He was backup at Juve towards the end, but that's why he left, I guess. But maybe he's been like, okay, I've done winning the Conference League at Roma now. Actually, he didn't do that. That was the season before, wasn't it? Well, he's done trying to win the Europa League with Roma now. Maybe he doesn't want to do that anymore. I've no idea. Maybe different country experience. I have no idea. But do you think there's anything to it? And regardless of whether you do or not, do you think we should do it, Price?
Yeah, I think we should. I think it's one of the most, pretty much no-brainer signings all summer. But unfortunately, we know this ownership don't like to buy anyone that's over the age of 22. So I don't think it will happen. He's not even on big wages either. I know some people are saying you demand a lot of wages. He's not even on that much at Roma, as far as I was aware. So, there's obviously the case of what Coach said. Why would he be a backup? But we might end up not buying a striker, and Kunku will probably end up going up front, and then Dybala will probably end up being the 10. So, that could happen as well. Dybala can also play up front. He can play out wide. He's older now, but he's still a good player, still a very good player. Would add a bit of creativity to our squad as well that we'd need. So, that's why a lot of fans want Shirky.
He's only 29, like he's not like old.
Yeah, he's not old. I just think he missed 18 games, I think, last season for injury. So he has that to deal with as well. He's injured. That's why he didn't hit the heights. He was, he's always been a great talent, but injuries have not helped him throughout his career.
Absolutely. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he wants a new challenge. He's been in Italy all his career, hasn't he? He started it, I think, at Palermo, and then went to Juve at a really young age, was there for years now, and now has gone to Roma. Wouldn't be surprised if he wants to try something other than Italy. A lot of footballers do. So as much as he's starting on the Jose, I think he's made enough money. He's maybe different culture, different experience with his family. It's more important than starting every game. I don't know. Mo, would you do it? Is it as much of a no-brainer in your mind as it is in Pice's?
Yeah, I'm going to be that controversial guy. And I generally wouldn't. I have to be honest. When we look at the midfielders that we had that we used to complain about their match availability, to go for someone like this, I understand he's on low wages, he's on low amount, and I want to be able to rely on certain players to be available for us. If he starts to bang and we can't actually get him on the pitch, or he can't play for as long as we need him to, because we have to look after him so much and there's compromises for us, I don't feel like we should be spending our time here. I'd rather find solutions that are the now and the future of our club. And personally, where I stand, although this is a short-term solution that people are looking at, I'm here for long-term solutions, and he's not part of that picture. And unfortunately, he's not someone that I'm looking to sign. I rate him as a player. He's a fantastic player. I do think he offers quite a lot, but unfortunately, the lack of availability and the unsureness of that sort of situation for me, I have to be honest and say that I'm not down for these types of signings.
Fair enough. And I see, I'm a bit more in between you guys, I guess. I would have to say I found it interesting. This from Simon Phillips through Miguel Delaney, who said that Chelsea's new policy is to build a squad around their promising young talent. The recruitment team are sympathetic to Pochettino's argument that a certain amount of experience is required to balance that. Pochettino feels that this is a quality that is potentially lacking in attack as he continues to assess the shape of his squad. And that's where it comes in for me, because I get what you're saying, Mo, and build for the future and everything else. And if we had a few experienced players at the club, I would 1,000,000% agree with this. Then I wouldn't say sign Dybala. But when all you have at the club is kindergarten FC, and then you have the possibility to sign a 29-year-old with good experience who's carried clubs, like he was Juve's best player for a hot minute until injuries, and then Allegri kind of turned things a bit sour. But he's a good player. Like he's not necessarily a player that I want to start every week for us, but he's a good player. And at Roma with Jose, he's now also kind of improved, or at least learned that there's also a certain amount of hard work required, and not just ball watching and chilling up front. Like he worked hard under Jose. Maybe that's why he was injured so much. But I would be down for it. Now it's not a signing where I'm like, you must get it. But if we did get it, I would be fairly happy with it. Yeah. That's all I can say. And like I say, and like you and me, Pies, we've said this many times, lack of experience to me is a massive worry for the squad this upcoming season. So adding some of it to it, someone that's won a few things, sure, he won it all at Juve, but still won a few things. That is something our squad, like, we won't have a single player in the squad that has won the Premier League. Like, let's not forget about that. I think, unless I'm forgetting someone now, but I don't think we will. So having one or two winners in the squad is not a bad thing. I know we obviously have Thiago Silva, but he's essentially the only one in our squad that's won anything. Obviously, the Champions League, that the few players that are here, Chile, Kepa, and Reece James, but Kepa wasn't even on the pitch. So, yeah, I would say it's a good move, but at the end of the day, I don't really know how realistic it is. Like, it just seems Thiago Silva and Enzo Fernandez and a few of these players are talking about it, but I'm not sure if there's been any serious links, if I'm being perfectly honest. Couple more pieces of news that I would like to touch on. Christian Pulisic's move to AC Milan is as good as done. Medical tests on Wednesday, that is tomorrow, and then the deal will be official. AC Milan will join. Pulisic will join AC Milan on a permanent deal for, I think, what is it, 17 million euros plus add-ons price?
Huh?
Yeah, that
How much
sounds right.
is Pulisic joining AC Milan for?
It's 18 million plus add-ons, I think.
But
Well,
euros, right?
no, it's up to, like, I think it's 18.8 million pounds is the total package. So just under 20 million.
But that's with add-ons. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So still very little money for a player that still has ability, in my opinion, but hasn't quite been able to pull it off. But yeah, we're basically turning AC Milan into Vitesse, really. We might as well see if we can add AC Milan to our multi-club model at this point. But yeah, at the same time, all the best to him, I guess. I hope it works out as a number 10 because he's not going to play left wing over Rafael Leao. So I guess, yeah, fair play. Mo, much of a thought. I still think we sold him for a little too little, I guess. But if you want to clear out your squad, and everyone knows you're trying to clear out your squad, I think he only has 1 year left in his contract as well, then you can't charge crazy money, can you? Especially a player that's not really played a lot for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think the sad part is obviously, and from the moment your club is being announced as a club that is already doing a clear out, you're always kind of stuck in negotiation tables trying to get the most for the players that you're trying to sell, that everybody in the world is aware of. And personally, I'm happy to see him go. I think he's not as problematic as some of the other players that we have, but he's still problematic. I do think the amount of quotes coming from this guy, you would think he was a legend of the club and we have been suffocating him for years type of thing. And in my opinion, he's had maybe several good moments, but he's never been a consistent player for us. And that's what annoys me with him, is that instead of putting more effort into the pitch and being available and making sure that he was applying himself correctly, there was far too much news coming out about him thinking he's bigger than he actually is. And personally, when a player has that type of attitude, I'm not a big fan, and I prefer players that do their talking on the pitch. Hence why I'm happy to see him go. If this is the start that he deserves and he wants, so be it. I wish we could have gotten more money, but it is what it is.
There you go. Fair enough. Vic, I'm not going to get into too much detail. I can't be bothered. I've spoken about Pulisic, I feel like, for 4 years straight about all sorts of issues. Why is he not playing? Why is he not this? Why is he not that? I can't really be bothered anymore. He's essentially a Milan player now. I've kind of had enough. I just put it as simple as that. I mean, we kind of touched on him already earlier, but first day of training today for good old Nicholas Jackson today. Looking good at our new training kit. Still big fan. Hope it does well, but yeah, we'll still have to see. If we sign another striker, I still will put Nicholas Jackson as one of the most pointless signings we've ever made. If we sign another striker, because then I'm like, why did you sign him? Just sign a proper, like a big name striker, an expensive striker, and have Breuer as the backup and a Kunku. That's enough. You didn't need Jackson then. But hey, we'll see. I hope it does well. And I hope it's successful for us, essentially. That's all I can really say. In terms of the roundup from yesterday, we kind of discussed all the details of it already, if I'm being perfectly honest. I guess one thing to touch on, as obviously pre-season under Pochettino has started at Cobham. It's also said that they've been really worked. It's been a harder first week than the whole last pre-season, which not a good sign for Mr. Tuchel. They will be machines. This year will be different. These boys are getting worked. And that is a great sign for me. An absolutely massive sign. Because that's what we need. Like, That will reduce injuries if we make sure they don't get injured during preseason. But it will also, it's just like, it's if things are going against you, sure. If you're playing well, if you're 2-0 up after half an hour, it's fine. But if things are going against you, if you need to dig deep towards the end of games, having peak fitness and being fitter than your opponent is such an important aspect of winning games and having a good season. Like, it's to keep that intensity up throughout a season is plays such a big role. So I really hope that Pochettino and his coaches can actually make that happen, essentially. And, what the famed Garçon test, which is a fitness test that Mauricio Pochettino and his fitness staff always do in preseason. They have faced this. Apparently, it's grueling and crazy. But Ben Chilwell emerged as one of the top performers, which I found interesting because initially I thought it said the top performer, one of the top performers. Well, the other ones then? Why are you only telling me one of them? But yeah, shout out Chilly for that. Not surprised by it, as long as his hammy holds up. A very fit man. I think we all know that. But I think the last important and interesting and big bit to talk about is a man called Mr. Levi Colwill. And the report that Mauricio Pochettino is set for talks with Levi Colwill this week to warn off potential suitors. Colwill and Madueke have been given 1 week off. Will return next Monday. The two have, of course, won the under-21s Euros for England. So congratulations to them. And obviously, there's been a lot of talk after that. Madueke was kind of part of, was it Colwill's live, where he said, yeah, we're coming back. I'll make sure he comes back. And Colwill kind of shrugged his shoulders to the end, at the end to that. Brighton posted, congratulations. He liked it immediately. When Chelsea posted about, congratulations, took him a hot minute to do that. There's been talks left, right, and centre. There's people that really like and rate him, that love the academy, that are kind of giving him all the excuses in the world why this is totally justifiable, why he's acting like this, saying what Tuchel did to him last year. I'm like, if Tuchel was still here, that is a valid explanation. But Tuchel is not still here. Last season has nothing to do with this season. I'm sure he's been told by also different ownership at the time, basically. So I know we just had the new ownership, but the whole conversations happened beforehand. So yeah, to me, he's still acting a bit strange, but I hope it's just, a bit of an uncertainty, and I hope that after conversations with Poch, we can sort things out. But I rate him a lot, but I'm not going to get on the hype train and love him too much, because I am, as of right now, would not be shocked if he ends up leaving. Not necessarily this summer, but maybe next summer, because we will offer him a contract. He might not agree to it. Then we'll try to get him to agree all season. He doesn't. Then he has 1 year left on the contract, and then we'll sell him. I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. I really hope we don't, because I rate him so incredibly highly, and everyone else does too. But I guess when a player knows he's rated as one of the highest rated centre-backs in the world by all the biggest clubs in the world, and then the club he's at kind of mistreated him a little bit a year ago, and also finished 12th in Europe, yeah, I guess I maybe understand a little bit, but at the same time, I'm like, bro, we just sold Koulibaly essentially to make space in the squad for you. So I personally think he should be acting a little bit differently. Obviously, we all knew about his post when we lost away to United and everything, and everyone's like, oh, let's not make too big of a deal out of it. And it's not too big of a deal, but it's still multiple small things where I'm like, did you have to do that? To me, it's one of two things. He's either an idiot that isn't able to read the room, or he's doing this all on purpose. And I don't really know what to make of either. Still rate him. Absolutely unbelievable talent who I want to be at the club permanently, long term. And I want to be one of the main guys at the back. But yeah, I hope that a bit of a chat with Pochettino will get him in order, because I don't know what happened to him at Brighton, but I don't like a few of the... again, I'm not saying any of these things are drastic. The tweet while we lost to Man United, also the shrug of the shoulders when Madueke said this, he almost looked seeming a bit annoyed when Madueke said, I'm making sure he's coming back and everything. But why does it have to be so many things? Why does it have to be that? Do you know what I mean? You've been at the club for so long. Why do you have to act like this? I find it a bit odd. But again, I'm not, holding too much against him. Every chance that he stays, signs a new contract, and everything's fine. It's also going to depend on Chelsea. What contract do we offer him? Because we have to be realistic. If Liverpool are after him, Man City are after him, Man United are after him, all the biggest clubs are after him, they're going to offer him big wages to tempt him. So we're going to have to offer him big wages to keep him. And I'm slightly concerned that with our wage structure at the moment, we're not going to quite abide by those wages that other clubs may offer him. So that's the part that concerns me. Pais, I'll let you go first again. First of all, do you agree with what I'm saying? As much as each individual thing is not that big of a deal, whether it's the shrug of the shoulders, whether it's the post while we lost to United, But there's still so many small things. I'm like, why is this happening? Do you know what I mean? Like, this wouldn't have happened with Reece James. Well, he was on loan at Wigan, did it? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's just been made a bit of a mountain out of a molehill, really. To me, I think he's going to stay.
Although I do swear, when he first posted it, that during the Man United game, you lost your shit at it.
Yeah, that. Let me explain, bro. That post itself, I was not happy about, and I still think that one was like, I don't know. You know what, Alex Goldberg's he speaks to Colwell and he assures you it was just nothing. He apparently didn't even know Chelsea was playing, but
he also assured me Mount was staying at Chelsea. So
that one and the one where he said like, I forgot I'm a Chelsea player for a minute in the Athletic interview. I was like, it's like sort yourself out a little bit.
It's just like a few small things. Again, as individual things, it's no big deal. Like, but why so many?
The stuff recently has been made a massive mountain out of a molehill. Like the Instagram thing, like. He just didn't want to talk about anything then. So, he's just, he even was like, to Madueke, he was just like, this guy, man, like, because that's what he said. Like, he was just almost like joking and laughing about it after. So, I don't really know why.
Madueke actually loves Chelsea, unlike Colwell.
Nah, sure.
Madueke's gassed about coming back to Chelsea. Colwell's like, I don't want to talk about it.
I don't think he's going to leave. Liverpool.
No, I don't think he's going to leave either because we're not going to let him. But if he doesn't sign a new contract, we
would let him leave if he wanted to leave. That's undoubtedly.
Do you not think if he wanted to leave, we would try to convince him for one more year because we can still sell him next year? I think that's what we would do. That's why I don't think there's any chance he leaves this summer.
Well, he's got a. So next season, if he plays enough games, he gets automatically +1 triggered on his contract anyway. So
would he then have 3, or does he only with that +1 have 2?
I think he would have 3. So, yeah. I mean, in terms of signing a contract, I'm not sure, but again, for me, from what I've heard, I don't think it's about the financials. It's more about the game time because he wants to get in the Euro squad. So he should be starting for them anyway. I mean, he's better than Harry Maguire. So. Yeah, I personally think he just doesn't. He wants assurances that what happened last summer won't happen. Like he wants to know, like if I work hard and if I'm, the best centre back in that spot, will I get played? And obviously Pochettino is going to say yes. So I think it's been a bit of a, made a bit of a mountain up a molehill. Really, I don't think anything bad's going to happen. To be honest with you.
No, like I say, I agree with you. It's been certainly on Twitter, people have made it a bigger deal than it is. My issue is just, like I say, a few smaller things that I'm like, is this necessary? But like I say, my worry isn't Colwell in this scenario because I think if we offer him a good enough contract and play him enough, he will stay. The worry that I have is, will we offer him a good enough contract? Or will he know Liverpool are offering me 200k, City offering me 250k, and we're going to offer him 110? That's the part that I'm signing. Sorry?
I don't think it's about money though for him, bro. It seems apparently
no. Of course, it's not about money. But if we promise him he will play, Liverpool promise him he will play, and Man City promise him he will play.
Liverpool though, because Van Dijk's their left centre back. So why would he play? This one I don't understand why Liverpool fans are gassing themselves.
Because he could just play on the other side, or Van Dijk plays on the other side. Doesn't matter.
Well, they've got Konate and Matip. We've only got Badiashile on the left side.
But Colwell is Badiashile is even miles clear of Matip and Konate.
Matip, yeah, Konate is debatable. I like Konate a lot.
But what's it? I know Upamecano the clown. I mean, they're both clowns to me, but anyway. Where do you stand on this whole Colwell debate?
And I agree with Weissman. I think this situation's been a little bit overblown, but I also do think that Colwell is just not PR trained. I think he has no freaking idea how easily he's rattling people, and maybe he does a little bit, and he's just trying to wind up people a little bit. But what I will say is that I definitely feel like he's somebody that just lacks a little bit of the core in that side of things. He doesn't know how to handle himself in the most professional of manners, and to also make sure that fan bases aren't, having a go at him. I think he respects what Brighton have done for him in terms of his career. They obviously came in, believed in him enough to say that they want him in loan, but also believed in him enough to actually start him in games and actually put his, reputation to where it is now. And I just think he's very grateful to them. But we have to also admit, from a Chelsea perspective, I don't want a player to lie to me and sell me dreams and, say that they love this club and, tap the badge or kiss the badge. And then suddenly I find out weeks later, they never wanted to be there in the first place and they wanted to go elsewhere. To be honest, a part of me respects this because he's not selling me a dream in terms of what his thoughts are and how he's carrying himself. And sometimes, as a fan of a club, obviously our bias comes into play, and we can't be objective and see the player is just being himself. And yeah, we don't like what we're seeing, and I think that's what a part of it is. I do think we're overplaying it. I do think we need to just let the situation unfold and see what happens. And our fan base, one thing that I don't like is that sometimes we run with something and start having a meltdown and start sending abuse for no freaking reason. And I do think that's where the danger lies. If there's people that are going to make this kid unsettled at our club or not want to play for our club, it is us as the fan base who overstep our line instead of actually understanding let the situation become what it needs to before we make our minds up. We sometimes just jump the gun. So for me, lack of PR training, let the situation unfold naturally like the way it needs to. And I'll be honest, I respect his honesty. He's not overselling me a dream, and I need to see the situation unfold. And I do think we can keep him here at the club if we give him the little bit of guarantees that he's looking for. He went out in the Premier League and he showed what his level of capabilities are, and that's at his young age. So we have a talented player on our hands here, and the fact that top clubs are interested in him, we should be talking to him in a serious manner and showing him that he is valued, and that's what will make him want to stay with us.
Absolutely. I basically agree with most of what you said there. Now, sure, I've tried to play a little bit devil's advocate in terms of I still don't like there's a few too many things, but in the grand scheme of things, I agree with both of you, essentially. But, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's been about it in terms of all the news. Obviously, we missed it a little bit over the last few days when I wasn't able to stream, but we're not going to catch up on everything since then. That's quite impossible, is it? But yeah, we'll see how the situation around Caicedo develops. The same goes for obviously Lukaku and all of the other people we are linked with. We just have to wait and see. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a great rest of your days. Depending on where you are, it might be boiling hot as it is here, 36 degrees today. I was literally dying. Yeah, exactly. And it's been hot for days on end, and I've had enough. Thankfully, on holiday soon. It will be hot there, but at least it's then hot on holiday. Hot is much more bearable on holiday when I can jump into the sea and
I hate that.
other things. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That would be massively appreciated. Hit that like button. If you haven't already, let's get to at least 100 likes before you leave. Just one click of a button that doesn't cost you any money or any time. And of course, please do check out my wonderful guests down in the description below. You can see Mo's Twitter handle on screen, Mohammed Idol, and the link is down in the description. And of course, as always, Pys' website, londonsfirst.com, as well as his Twitter, both linked down in the description. Check both of them out for all your latest Chelsea news. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.